Hello, I'm Travis and welcome back to Barn Dog Projects as we're going to do another project today where we're going to put in a frost-free hydrant. Several years ago I put in a pool and I didn't put in a water outlet for that so that I could fill the pool, clean the deck, do the different things. And it's been something where ever since then I've had to drag out this long hose and bring the long hose back, and it's just been kind of an inconvenience for me. So this year I'm going to put in a frost-free hydrant, and that's going to alleviate a lot of problems for me. Make sure you know where all your gas lines, water lines, electrical lines, um, television, TV lines, any kinds of lines that can be under the ground. Fiber optics, there's just tons of those things. And if you cut one of those things, one of those lines, it can be anywhere from very costly to very dangerous. So never do any kind of digging underground without knowing where all your lines are marked. That's the very first thing you need to know of before you start. Now, I have the luxury that I built this house and I know where all the lines are. So I'm not going to have to call out anybody because I can very aware of where the lines are before I dig. Then another thing that you have to think about is when you dig on the line is am I going to need to use, am I going to dig this by hand or am I going to get a trencher? A trencher is a wonderful tool and it can help move very quickly along, especially if you're going to have to dig really long areas. The thing is that the problem with the trencher, if you're not real careful and you have some lines in the ground, it can do a lot of damage really fast. It can tear up water lines, telephone lines, gas lines, all of those things. It can tear them up extremely quick before you even realize that you've even done it. So you have to think, what's most important to me? Is it important to the quickness of digging with a trencher, or or digging with a line, the security of knowing I have a shovel in my hand and I don't have to worry about damaging things with a big machine? My total line is going to be about 100 feet, which is not that much. The time that it took me to go and rent a trencher and come back and trench it, I could probably most likely dig most of that by hand just in the time of being gone. And then another thing too is I know that I have several lines in between where I want to go. I do have an electrical line that runs electricity to the pool, and then I have water lines as well for the sprinkler systems. And so I would have to do most of the digging of where I want to go anyway by hand because I would be too close to lines and I wouldn't want to damage those lines. So for me and my personal application, I'm going to do the whole thing by hand. It's important though that you think about that, what kind of trenching you want to do, what kind of trencher you want to use. If you're going to use a trencher, making sure that you get one that's big enough or not too big for the project that you're doing. If you're going to do hundreds and hundreds of feet, you're going to probably want to get a self-propelled trencher. If you're going to do not that many linear feet, then maybe one that's not self-propelled would be okay. I always think spending a little extra money and getting the self-propelled is better. But today we're not going to use a trencher. We're going to dig it by hand. And what I'm going to use as my water source is down here. Is I have the sprinkler system main line. Now I'm going to come off the water system or the sprinkler system main line because I want to know where it's at. I can easily get to it. It already has a valve. So I can easily turn off this water hydrant easily by turning on and off the water uh, uh, sprinkler main line, and it's going to be easily for me to tap into without getting to the water of the house. One of the things you have to think of, and I always like valves when you're dealing with water, because if you tap right into the main line and I have a leak somewhere in this system, I'm going to have to turn off the water to the entire house to fix it, or I'm going to have this leak continually going, or I don't have water in the house. I have to pick one of the two. If I can easily turn it off with a valve, well, then now I don't have to turn off the water to the main house. I can just turn off the water valve to one part, continue the water to my home, and then I can keep the water off at where I'm trying to fix it. So I always like to put valves when I'm trying to change or add on things like this. So I think adding it onto the sprinkler system where I already have a valve, it just makes it simple to do it. So that's one of the first things. The next thing you need to do is you need to just define your path. I know where I'm going to tap into my water source. I know where my path generally is. So the next thing for me to do is to I'm going to use a marking spray paint, and I'm going to mark my line generally so that I know where I'm digging. When you're digging by hand or by trencher, it's sometimes easy to get off path. You think, oh, I'm going straight, but you're just, you get caught up in the moment and you'll veer off one way or the other. If you have a nice kind of painted path, for me, it just says, okay, I know where I'm going and it keeps me right where I'm going to go. So today, the first thing I'm going to start with is I'm going to paint my path. The next thing is, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I have to start digging. So here's one of the reasons why I'm digging by hand. Let me show you right here. That's a sprinkle line that I knew existed, but I didn't know exactly where it was. So if I came down here with a trencher, I would have chewed that line up. But since I used my shovel, I'm going to miss that and not destroy it. All right, so here we go. I found the second PVC conduit right here. This is where my electrical line that's encased goes to the swim pole, supplies power to the pump. So again, there's two encounters. Digging it by hand, I'm going to cause major problems. So since I did it by hand up to this point, easily I can just move on. There's no damage caused to it. Okay, so now brings us into the point of where we're going to try to tap into the main line. And like anything in life, you have a great plan and then reality comes in and tells you how you should go with it. So I was hoping my main line was going to come further out, but it ends, actually, it comes in here, the main line comes here, makes a 90 degrees, and runs with these other sprinkler lines underneath them. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut into it here. I'm going to raise it up with two 90s, a 90 up, 90 up, put in a T, and then I'm going to run it out that way. Hopefully, we'll take care of what we need to get done. All right, so now you can see I've got my T. My main's going to go in and continue on. Now we're going to have a T. It's going to be a little higher than what I would have liked it to have been. But then now I can move on out, start putting in pipe to the rest of the system. Good news, that has come out of the main there that we just did. Put a 90. Okay, we've just been using gluing and PVC couplings. So there's a coupling, just be using the same process of putting couplings together. And we're just putting this pipe together, coupling after coupling, and just repeating the process all around. All right, so we're getting to the kind of the end of it here. So on the bottom of this spigot is going to be a 3/4 inch screw in, and when I've got a 1-inch adapter, so 3/4 to 1-inch adapter. So what we're going to do is put some of our sealant tape on there. I'm going to screw that in really well. All right, now with that screwed in there, we're going to be able to put a 90 on the bottom. Now what's most important when you're dealing with these is that you give a place for the water to go. It's going to backflow out of the hydrant into the area. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make an area, sump area, or a drain area for this hydrant to go into. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the bottom off this bucket, and then we're going to put a top onto it and cut a hole into it. And that's going to give, and then we're going to fill that with rocks. And what that's going to give us is this nice, beautiful place for water to drain, and then the bucket's going to protect the rocks from getting filled up with any kind of dirt. So a nice place for it to drain. I'm going to create a little notch, and this is for my pipe to fit into. So now that's going to sit perfectly down in there with the pipe coming over it. Now we just need to do the exact same thing to our lid. We're going to cut a hole, and so that we can fit the top, the hydrant. Also put a T-stake through here to hold support, so we may have to adjust that a little bit. Now before I put in anything else, I want to put in this T-post. What this T-post is going to do is it's going to give me something nice and strong for my valve to hydrant to mount up to. You just don't want it out here just flopping by itself, because it can easily break them off. All right, so you'll see that I've got already a good 8-9 inches of rock down in here. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this rock here, and that's going to give me a good surface to set my post on too. So it's not sitting on a nice, good, strong level in here. Then when I'll get these glued up, then I can put my bucket on, and then we'll glue it all, we'll fill it all back in with rock. All right, so now what we want to do, we've got it mounted in, it's plumbed in. Now I'm going to take some black ties, zip ties, and I'm going to zip this. Okay, I wanted to see basically what we're creating. So what we have right here is I'm going to turn on the water. See that it's filled up with pressure. You see all that pressure. But now you can see how that's draining water out. And all that water that's draining out of the pipe right now through that weep hole is going to go into that area that we have the rock. And all that rock that we're creating is creating that nice drainage area. That lid's just going to keep a little bit of the dirt and debris out of there. And then also what can happen is weight can sit on the rocks and crush into your pipe. So if you just put the rock straight onto the pipe, and then that weight of anything going by in the earth, it can actually create pressure points into the rock, into the PVC. So by putting this lid, you're just kind of helping out with that general pressure that could be coming from sitting on. The last thing to do is to fill it in around the hydrant, and then we'll have the whole system filled in. Okay, we've got the whole system in. Our hydrant has got water to it. We'll turn it on. You can see that, woo, that's got a lot of power coming out of there. That's a 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to hook it up to about a 3/4 of an inch hose. So I should be able to fill my area, my pull up much faster, be able to do with it much quicker. You can see the power coming out of there is much heavier because it's not being restricted to a 1/2 inch or 5/8 that may be going through the house. This is a 1 1/4 inch line going straight into a 3/4 inch line with full pressure. So that's going to give me a lot of pressure back here. Now I can run a system off to plant some trees that I'll have another video about, but a lot of things are going to be able to happen now because I've put this line in. Took the end with it. Hope this helps you in your project if you need to put a hydrant in. So come back and see us. Hope you like or subscribe if you like this video. We've got a lot more coming for you to see. A lot of projects that I have to do. So look forward to seeing you back here on Barn Dark Projects.